2 weeks ago, Rafa Nadal won the Australian Open, which came with a payday of over $2 million. Now, we all know the top tennis players in the world, the Rafas, the Novaks, the Rogers, are making millions upon millions a year in the game of tennis. Now, I've seen a few videos on YouTube of where people break down exactly how much tennis players get paid, but what I haven't seen is a video where someone breaks down exactly how much money it actually costs to get just one ATP point. In this video, I'm going to break down how much I spent on my 11-year tennis journey so far and how much I'm spending right now to try and get my first ATP point. Let's break it down. So let's take a look at how much I've spent in my tennis career so far. I started playing tennis at the age of 7. I played at a high national level throughout those 11 years, so I took tennis pretty seriously and played quite a lot of tournaments, just so we can bear that in mind. So there were 5 key areas that I spent my money on. Those were coaching in the form of one-to-one coaching, group sessions in terms of like academy fees, stuff like that, tournament fees, travel costs, so getting to tournaments, and then of course equipment costs, which includes balls, rackets, strings, all of that type of stuff. So let's first take a look at the one-to-one coaching. For all of these numbers, I did pay in pounds, but I converted it to dollars just for the video. Now, let's say I had 2 sessions per week over 40 weeks in the year, giving time for holidays, injuries, and tournaments, which would come out to 80 hours per year at around $41 per session. That will come out to around $36,080 over the entire 11 years. So number 2, we have strength and conditioning costs. Throughout the younger part of my career, this was actually included as part of the academy costs, but from the ages of 15 to 17, I paid separately for them. So in those 2 years, I had about 1 session per week and again around 40 weeks per year, coming out to around $34 per session, which makes overall $2,720 for the 2 years that I've had S&C coaching. Now, of course, every player does also get injured sometimes, and so of course I would have needed physio sessions. I had around 15 physio sessions, I want to say, throughout my career. Luckily, I haven't been injured too much, and fingers crossed I don't get injured in the coming year. But of those 15 sessions, each one was around $68, which comes out to a total of $1,020 throughout my tennis career, and hopefully we can keep that cost pretty low. Let's move on to section 2, which is the group coaching. So this is any costs where I'm in a session with multiple people and we're in more of a squad environment. Multiple sessions per week would have costed me around $203 per week, and again for 40 weeks of the year would make up $8,120 per year over the 11 years, which comes out to $89,320. And of course, sometimes you do need to pay a membership cost at certain clubs. So over the 11 years, 5 years, I've had to pay around $406 to be part of a club, which comes out to $2,030 in total. So third on the list is tournament fees. Now, for every tournament that you enter here in the UK, you have to pay a set fee to take part, and usually it ranges from around £20 to £40 depending on the event. Now, I've taken my 1,011 matches that I played, and I've taken, let's say, 3 matches per event, so I can calculate that I've played about 337 tournaments. And again, like I said, let's take the average of $34 per event. That comes out to $11,458 just on tournament fees, which, saying that out loud over 11 years, that sounds pretty crazy. Moving swiftly on to number 4 on the list is the travel costs. Now, this is where it begins to get a little bit expensive. Now, of course, throughout the younger parts of my career, I wasn't traveling that much to tournaments. They were more local in the under 8s, under 9s, the green balls, the red balls, the orange balls. But as I'm moving through to the higher levels of tennis, as you've seen in the past 2 episodes, I played a tournament in Scotland, in Birmingham, and these aren't exactly tournaments which are close by. So we have to take into account hotel costs and of course travel costs. So 25% of my 337 tournaments makes around 84. So that's about the amount of tournaments that I will need to stay in a hotel at. And let's say I'm staying in a hotel for about 2 nights on average, which is 168 nights at around $81 per night. That comes out to $13,608 on hotels. So of course, along with the hotel, you have to get to the event. So 327 events I've driven to by car, coming out to just under 50,000 miles driven to events, which is pretty crazy. And I have to say, thanks to my parents for helping me get to these events, because that's a lot of driving. So that comes out in total to $13,908 in terms of petrol costs. And I've done about 10 trips by train and plane, coming out to $2,710 in total, averaging around $271 per event. The last area, number 5, of my tennis costs is equipment. So this includes rackets, strings, stringing, clothes, tennis and fitness shoes, and also accessories. So let's go through each one and see how much I've spent. So with rackets, I've been sponsored since the age of 14, but before that I bought 10 rackets at about $150 each, coming out to a total of $1,500. Now to strings, again I was sponsored since the age of 14, so we're not going to count those costs. But I bought 10 additional reels at around $135 each, coming out to $1,350. On top of rackets and strings, I of course need someone to string them. I usually pay my string at around $14 per racket, and I would say I've had around 300 rackets strung, most of which coming from the age of about 15, since I started really hitting the ball a little bit harder, which comes out to a total of $4,200 on racketry strings. So on to clothes. I've been lucky enough to have been sponsored since the age of 12, but before that I would have roughly paid around $1,700 in total for clothes. Now on to tennis shoes. Over the past 11 years, I would say I've used about 7 tennis shoes per year, comes out to $7,700. So on to accessories, which is grips, tennis balls, dampeners, all of that type of stuff. I would say I've spent around $500 on grips, $500 on tennis balls, and around $50 on dampeners and little accessories like that, which comes out to $1,500 in total. So now we know the main figure of how much I spent over my 11-year tennis career, which is, drumroll please, $190,804. And that number is pretty big. It does sound crazy when you look back over my entire 11-year career. However, when you compare it to an academy in the US, for example, IMG Academy, which costs $660,000 for 11 years there, it really puts it into perspective. Of course, that is also without the travel costs, the equipment costs, all of that type of stuff. So when you really look at the numbers in tennis, I think I've done pretty well to keep the cost as low as possible during my tennis career. So now on to section number 2. Of course, now I'm on a mission to get my first ATP point in the year 2022. And as part of that journey, I'm playing as a full-time player, which is a bit different to the 11 years we've just had a look at. So let's start again with the 5 key themes: coaching, group coaching, travel, equipment, and tournament fees. So in terms of one-to-one coaching, I'm spending about $813 per month currently. And in terms of S&C coaching, I'm spending about $271 at the moment. And in terms of physio and injury prevention and maintenance, you saw my physio Keelan in the second episode of Road to 1 ATP Point. I'm currently getting the physio sessions for free, so I don't have to pay anything for those. Now on to group coaching. You've seen in episode 1 of the series where I had a session with multiple players, and those group sessions are costing me $747 per month. I have multiple sessions. I think it's currently between 5 and 6 sessions per week, and I'm currently having to pay nothing for the yearly club fees as I'm playing for the club, so I get that kind of for free. I'm going to say I'm playing on average around 3 tournaments per month. You've seen me play 2 already, where I've unfortunately lost the first round in both, but the cost is around $34 per event in entry fee, which comes out to $102 in total. Now, traveling to those events. Given again 3 events per month and around 2.5 nights per event, that's going to come out to $525 per month on hotel fees. Most of the events in the UK we're going to be driving to, and in terms of petrol, it's going to be about 200 miles per trip, which comes out to $231 for the month of traveling. Now the last element is of course equipment, and I'm fortunate enough to be sponsored for my rackets, strings and clothes. And of course, in terms of racketry strings, I'll have about 6 racketry strings, about $13 per restring. So per month currently, that comes out to $78. And in terms of tennis shoes, I'll go through a pair of shoes in about 2 weeks. Now I'll get each pair of shoes for $75, so about $150 in total on tennis shoes. Now that number comes out to $2,918 per month. Now that is the cost of a month when I'm training here in the UK. So let's take a look at the cost of a month playing futures tournaments abroad. Now of course this cost is dramatically higher than it would be training here in the UK, because you have the flight costs, the hotel costs every single day, and of course other hidden costs like the tournament fees, tournament, court booking, all of that stuff. Now, of course, I haven't actually played these tournaments, so I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm going to give it my best shot at estimating how much each week would cost me. So I've put a rough prediction of about $5,424 per month in total for each month when I'm abroad. And I've planned in about 3 months where I'm traveling, so that in total comes out to $16,277 for those 3 months. So if you add the 9 months here in the UK and the 3 months abroad, that comes out to $42,539 in 2022 on my journey to my first ATP point. Now, if we add the numbers from the past 11 years of my tennis career plus this year, that's going to come out to $233,343 to get my first ATP point. Now, of course, this number is subjective because it can change depending on how much money I'm spending at these tournaments, whether I get injured, fingers crossed that I don't, how many tournaments I'm playing, how deep I go in those tournaments, and of course, all of those numbers can change, but it gives you a rough idea of exactly how much money you need to spend to even get one ATP point. I think I wanted to kind of show you guys exactly how much one of these points costs, because it just shows you how much dedication and commitment is required, especially on behalf of people that are paying for your journey. So for me, that would be my parents. I have to say thank you, especially throughout the younger years of my career. I'm beginning to help pay for the tennis journey, especially in this year with a lot of the social media stuff that I've been doing, especially on YouTube, and you guys have really been enjoying the journey. And of course, I have had multiple sponsors helping me out throughout the way on my tennis journey, which has also, of course, made the cost a lot more effective. Now, I know a lot of people will pay a lot more, and some people, of course, will pay a lot less for their first ATP point. And that comes down to, like I said, a multitude of factors. For example, where you're training, how talented you are as a tennis player, along with many other factors. Now, this is just my costs and what I think I'm going to spend to get my first ATP point. Leave a comment down below if you're someone on the journey to your first ATP point, and roughly whether you're spending more or less than me. I'll be interested to know from you guys. There'll be definitely a lot more videos documenting my journey towards that ATP point, and this will be a running theme in those videos. I really want to be transparent with you guys on how much I'm spending, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video.